Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session, we are going to look at the concept of the indicator known as recursive moving trend average, which is shortened as RMTA. We will see how we can take the advantage of this indicator for making a trading setup to go for the higher probability trades. We will see the customization options provided on the platform to make it as useful as possible for our interpretation of the trading possibilities. The trend is your friend, and we want to know what the trend is, how it is likely to continue, and if there are emerging possibilities of reversal. So all these things will have to be looked into whenever we are going to place a trade, and for that we need to be in a position to make a objective assessment of the current scenario. For that we are going to rely on the RMPA indicator, the recursive moving trend average. From the name, you might have guessed that this is going to be a sort of a moving average, and you are correct to that extent. But it uses a recursive methodology for the calculation, and that's where it differs from the typically used moving averages. It gives it more stability and also the ability to keep up with the price moves, because if you observe the current chart here, you would have noticed that we have seen these RMTA value jumping up and following closely towards these recent jump. But if you plot any other moving average or most of the moving averages, you will see a pronounced lag between the price action and the catching up of the moving average. But that is not really the case to that extent with the recursive moving average. It tries to plot the moving average ahead in the future using the current price data and the prior average price. So to that extent, it tries to see where the price is going to go in the next candle grid, depending on the current volatility, the current price momentum. We get a good idea of where the things stand, how the things are unfolding, and where these are likely to lead. So, using these data points, we can then decide whether to go for the trade in the current trend's direction, or if the stagnation is likely to unfold, or if there is a possibility of reversal from the current trend. All these aspects can be looked into, and accordingly we can decide to sit on the sidelines or to make a jump and go for the new trade. If we observe today's price channel, price formation, we had this consolidation unfolding in the Euro USD around the levels of 1.09, and it was consolidating. We had these price moves in the Euro USD, where the Euro USD was consolidating around these crucial level after having rallied almost 150 pips in the last week, and then its range had narrowed where it wasn't really going anywhere. We had these topsy-turvy moves in last couple of sessions. In today's session, the range was fairly shallow, but after this long consolidation phase, the momentum picked up, and if we were to rely on these trading possibilities, looking at these RMT indicators, we would have been in a position to capitalize on these moves, because the RMTA told us that the price trajectory was now moving in the bullish direction, because we had the RMTA price, RMTA output signaling this upward momentum because as per the classical interpretation of the RMTA, if we see the RMTA price on the rise, if the current output of the RMTA is greater than the output value of the earlier trade, we consider it to be indicative of the bullishness in the underlying instrument, and along with that, we also look at the current price where it is in respect to the current period's RMTA output value, and if it is above the current period's RMTA value, then that is also considered a sign of the that is considered as the sign of possibility of a strong move in the given direction. And if we have the recursive moving trend average declining, then we consider it to be indicative of the bearishness, and all we have to do is keep looking for short selling opportunities. We can go for short sell trades, we can look for these possibilities and go for a trade of sale where we can also profit from this decline in the underlying instruments price, whether it is forex, currency cross, or commodity shares, or equity indices. All sorts of financial instruments can be used with this indicator, and it will help you in figuring out the opportunities to profit. We don't really have to spend much of an brain power because this is a simple indicator. The concept is simple. If you want the exact formula for the recursive moving trend average, we have to simply do a quick search, and there you will find these indicators exact formula. Here I will not go into the calculation aspect of this indicator much. Rather than that, we are focusing our attention on these indicators, possible uses, and the customization option. Still, for you to know it in a simple term, what we do while calculating the recursive moving trend average is we take the moving average of the calculation period, and then we add to it the difference between the current period's value, the price of the current period, and the value which prevailed at the candle period, which is placed away from the current candle by the exact number of the calculation period. So we take that difference and divide it by the number of periods, and we add it to the moving average. So that is also one way to arrive at the recursive moving trend average output value. But there are multiple ways of deriving the RMTA value. So there is no fixed formula for how to work with these RMTA indicator, and we are likely to rely on the most convenient method, and that is for us to not to look at the calculation much, because for us the job is done by these platform. All we have to do is look at the possible interpretations and the possible uses. And I told you one of the classical interpretation is to look at this RMT output value in terms of its recent move, where it is going, and then compare it with the current period's output value, the price, applied price, and you are in position for deciding the trading opportunities. That is the easiest way for us to take the informed trading decision using these RMTA indicator. If we consider the price move for last couple of sessions, we can see that we had this big sharp move at around 15 GMT on 15th of June and it continued. So if you were to go long somewhere around here, you would have profited substantially. Earlier in the day, the momentum was bearish for a while, then it crossed above these RMTA, but it couldn't really sustain. It dropped and eventually it crossed again. So this kind of moves where it continually crosses from one side to another can also result in many false signals. So that is also a possibility which you need to watch out for. You have to keep this in mind that not all the signals generated by these indicators are going to be profitable. Some of the trading signals generated are also going to end up in losses, and we need to be ready for that and we need to figure out the filtering mechanisms to minimize this sort of losses. So I would suggest that you use some additional mechanisms like price action or any additional filtering mechanism, filtering indicator to take advantage of this indicator. And if we have to then rely on this indicator, it will help us in optimizing the trading opportunities. Here earlier in the day when we had these underlying instruments really not going anywhere, it was simply moving sideways. We had these moves of the Euro USD on both the sides, and that would not really have helped us much rather than burn our money in brokerage and commission. But eventually, it did rally substantially from these levels to now almost close to 1.1. So, if you had then gone for these trade after having seen the Euro USD being able to hold above these RMTA indicator, then I think you would have stood a better chance. So this is also one additional filtering mechanism where you can not only look at the RMTA's output trajectory, but also how long the price action is able to sustain on the given side of the RMTA and use it as a additional filtering mechanism for deciding whether to go for the trade or not. So that possibility is also there. So you would have to carry out observation over a long period of time, and then you would be in a position to judge for yourself whether to go for the trade depending on these simple assessments, simple interpretations we have talked about so far in the session, or you need additional information regarding the price series. So to be able to make a high probability trading decision, and I would suggest that you work with this indicator for a long period of time, and of course you will then get familiar with its pros and cons, its advantages and its disadvantages, and accordingly you can customize this indicator while keeping all such possibilities in mind, and you would stand a good chance of optimum trading strategy. The applied price can be varied. We can go for different types of applied prices, and depending on that, we will have these changes in the indicators plotting. Depending on the kind of applied price we use, we will have these different output of the indicator. So price. Now we are back to candle grade can also be varied. If you want to reduce it, you can go for a reduced calculation grid and it will make that indicator's output value much more volatile because as the calculation period has decreased, it will be taking a lot less data points for the calculation. And if you want to increase, you can do that as well. So that kind of possibility is also there. And it will add to the stability of these indicators plotting, because we are now considering large data points before we can decide for ourselves how the RMDA output to be interpreted. Now I'm going to restore it back to default. Oops. Output, you can go for different color combinations if you are not really fan of this current shade of blue. Styling can also be varied, so can be variation done for the transparency factor. So all these customization options are there on the platform. Try it out, go for the color combination of your choice, styling combination of your choice. So all that possibility is there. Then coming to the levels, we don't really have these predefined levels for these indicators because it is incredibly hard for us to arrive at desirable levels in case of moving averages is a recursive moving trend average. So in this case also it is going to be fairly difficult for us to arrive at some predefined levels to work with. Advanced editing tools, editing options, you can go for recalculate on your candle only. So your output value will get fixed at the opening price for the new candle. Highlight the time period zone, whatever your calculation period will be highlighted if you opt in. Calculate from custom data, further customization can be done with the instrument, calculate and spread side. If you want this indicator to be available on all the spread candle grades, you can do so, or else you can even specify the particular candle grade on which you want this indicator to be available, and on that time frame, this indicator will be available. The base period can be varied. Depending on the base period, we will see significant changes in the plotting of the indicator. So pay attention to this. See what kind of base period is going to work best for you, and accordingly go for that. So I would suggest that observe the plotting of this indicator using these various customization options provided on the platform, and then you can make an informed trading decision of how to use these indicators for figuring out the trading opportunities where you feel the probability of making money is a lot higher. That's all from my side for today's session of this session of JForex indicators explained, where we looked at the concept, the possible uses of recursive moving trend average. I hope you got the points, the simplicity of the indicator, and if you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback, and I'll be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.